If you want to see your name at the beginning of all of our videos, as well as see exclusive content here on the homestead, please feel free to join our Patreon. Memberships start off at just $1 a month. And as always, thank you for your support.
So this question was in reference to rat breeding, and how in rat breeding, if you have a really great male, your females can be kind of meh, and you can continue breeding the females to that really great male until you can no longer breed them to that male to create the best product possible. In rabbits, it's somewhat similar. A buck is going to influence and be more beneficial to your program than a doe just because of how breeding works. So if you have the choice between a really great male and a really great female, I personally would choose the better male. And it is because of very similar reasons. Through line breeding, you could take the daughters and breed them back to that really amazing male. It's currently what I'm doing with Strawberry. I'm taking the stock out of Coco's line and breeding it to him, and then I'm taking those daughters and rebreeding them back to their father. And the idea is, genetically, I want them to be more of Strawberry than I want them to be of the does. Because through line breeding, I am setting certain characteristics in place. So in short, yes, it is very much so like rat breeding in that you can line breed back to the father for a good beneficial result. But with rabbits, you want to be very careful in that you only keep the best animals. The idea is that you breed the best and eat the rest. And you are very, very careful in what you keep in your lines, as it will continue to perpetuate down as you line breed. So it honestly depends on the body type of the rabbit. In conformation, there are multiple types that you have for judging. I have compact and commercial. For a commercial rabbit, the purpose of conformation is to ensure the most meat yield for the body type. So the idea is with the body type of a commercial rabbit in the standard of perfection, you would get the best choice cuts of meat for the rabbit. So for instance, if we are talking about the top line, so the area that runs along the spine, we are looking for the most smooth, well-filled in top line, because that equates to a better cut of meat. A long and rangy rabbit isn't going to have the choice cut of meat, so it's not going to be thick, it's going to be stretched out. When we talk in conformation about firmness of flesh also, we're looking at how well muscled the rabbit is compared to fat content. Now again, this is just for commercial type rabbits. Here, if we look at Lulu, as you can see from a high-end perspective, she's mostly smoothed out in this area, and I would want to see a little more filling in on that area because it would equate to more meat being filled into that hindquarter. She is not happy I am interrupting her breakfast. Such a naughty little monster. Yes, it's so naughty. But yeah, you're going to get a different answer for different poses, such as the running pose. If my hair people want to weigh in on why you want conformation in that kind of way, I'd love to hear it, as I don't see many hares on table, and they aren't very common in our area for competition. When it comes to raising rabbits for meat, I believe in full transparency, because that's how we work on destigmatizing raising rabbits for meat. Even though for most of human history, rabbits have been used for meat, in the past 100 years, we've really focused on raising rabbits for pets. Which is cool, but not the rabbit's original purpose. Because these animals are livestock and not pets, we are very strict on our biosecurity. More so than I am with our pet rabbits, though when it comes to biosecurity, I'm still very careful. Part of proper biosecurity includes not giving into risks that could harm the rabbit when it comes to sicknesses such as RHVD2. So our livestock animals spend most of their time in these cages. We don't let them run on the ground. One of the things that I mentioned was a hemorrhagic disease, which is RHVD2. It can sweep through your rabbitry in a matter of days and kill just about every single one of your rabbits. And although a good chunk of my breeding stock has its first round of shots, only one of my rabbits has his second round. And that's because there's a shortage on the vaccination, which is extremely frustrating.
But even then, I wouldn't be using it on my meat stock necessarily. It would just be used on my breeders that I take to show, or that I'm worried might come into contact with the virus. So in order for me to give the rabbits the shot, they have to reach at least 6 months old in my rabbitry. But I digress on a secondary topic. So the only time these rabbits get taken out of their cages is when I personally take them out for things such as posing practice or health checks. To be pragmatic, for most of my rabbits, that's once a week. I'll get them out and I'll pose them. If they're younger and I'm working on taming them, so if they are under the age normally of 3 or 4 months old, I'm getting them out daily. Now for kits, this means I'm weighing them. For the older ones, it means I am posing them and evaluating them. And of course, health checks. Now that being said, if you're worried about interaction, I go through and all of my rabbits get at least this multiple times a day. They do get attention, but that doesn't necessarily mean getting out of the cage. Again, these are livestock animals. They aren't pets. So before I give an answer to this question, I have a few questions that you might want to answer and go over just to verify your theory, or to kind of problem solve your issue. If the kits are brand new, meaning a day or so old, has mom's milk come in yet? Most rabbits have their milk come in day 2 to 4, and that's when we start seeing the nice round full bellies and mom's actually doing a good job in feeding. Do they have nice full round bellies? If they're fluffy like this breed, weigh your kits a couple of times a day. Are they generally increasing weight? Does mom have access to water at all times? Is she of good condition and is she eating enough? Keep in mind that most moms only feed 2 times a day, and you're not going to see them in the box often. And to be honest, you don't want a box sitter. Those guys can get nasty in their nesting boxes, and it can cause your kits to get all kinds of diseases and infections if they're peeing on top of them. If the kits are a little bit older, did mom's milk dry up? Check to make sure she still has milk. If the kits are above 4 weeks of age, is she just being aggressive with them? Or is she kind of getting annoyed that the babies are still nursing? If they're 7, 8 weeks and mom's getting aggressive with them about nursing, it might be time to think about weaning. Alright, so on to kind of the solutions of moms not feeding their babies. This right here is a prime example of why I like to breed multiple does at a time. So if I have a mom that dies, or I have a mom that's milk dries up, or I have anything happen to where a mom can't feed her kits, I have a backup doe who can help feed the litter. Because bottle babies are a pain and they have a super high attrition rate. If mom's just being a jerk and won't nurse her babies or won't get in the box, and you can see that she isn't doing it, you're going to want to hold her over those babies and allow the babies time to nurse. Some moms prefer it to where how Vanessa is sitting right here, how she's facing downwards. But other mothers, it's easier to supplement feeding by flipping them on their backs. So in short, I would either just foster out or I would make the doe feed the kits. But odds are if I have to force a doe to feed the kits and she's aggressive with them, I'm going to shelf the babies as well to make sure that they're safe. And to caveat on to that, if I have a doe that does this with multiple litters, I will cull her from my program because it's just not worth dealing with. If I still had Belle in this barn, this would be a very pointed video against her. Because that doe, no matter what I did, every single time, no matter what kind of box I'd give her, always building a nest on the wire and I'd have to move it to the box. Every single gosh darn time. That doe was such a pain in the ass. But back on subject. If I have a doe that is building a nest on the wire, I move it into the box and monitor the doe. Most times they kind of get the point and they will start nesting in the area you move that nest to. And everything kind of goes without a hitch. But I always watch and observe the doe just to make sure everything is still going to plan. I want to make sure the doe is going to have those babies in the box. And if she doesn't, I want to be there to intervene. Now, I've noticed it's with a lot of first-time moms that do this. Most of the time, when we get to the second round, they do much, much better. But if I have a doe that is continuously trying to nest on the wire or has babies on the wire, the 3-strike rule does apply.
because I don't want that much stress in my rabbitry when it comes to making sure moms are doing the right thing. For anyone new to the page, this is our buck Strawberry. Mr. Man is our main breeding buck when it comes to our mini Rex, and he is my daughter's show buck. He's also only one of 2 animals on the entire homestead that will not be culled out for any reason. And that's because my daughter has a choice of a pet and a breeder that she gets to keep no matter what. So with that being said, when Strawberry retires, what happens? The great thing about breeding bucks is that they don't really retire. As long as they stay in good condition and are of good health, you can use them in your breeding program. So Strawberry has the potential to have kits through his entire life, from the age he is now, which he's 2, all the way up until he passes away of hopefully natural causes, old age, in the next 5 to 8 years. But the only way he's gonna get to move into the house, so to speak, is if something were to happen to my daughter's pet Gigi and we'd have an extra cage open. Or once Daisy moves to my sister's house when she's done with college, I might use the cage that she's in inside to move him inside. But for now, Mr. Man's just chilling out in the barn, living his best stud life. Before I say anything, yes, focus on building your barn before you paint it. With that being said, I'm also a person who has blue-eyed whites, so I can completely understand being like, ooh, pretty colors, and then working on your barn from there. So if you find a caster that you are absolutely in love with, it has decent body type, and you want to work on it, then absolutely go for it. Out of the 2 options you have being blue and black otters, I would suggest breeding it to the black otter over the blue otter so you're not muddying up your circles and your rings in the fur. And then once you get more casters, because caster is dominant over otter, you want to stick to breeding casters to casters. And you won't wreck your program, so to speak, you just gotta keep track of everything. If your lines don't meld well together, the worst that happens is you eat all your babies. If you eat rabbit. If not, then, there are other ways to cull, such as pet sales, or show sales, or that kind of thing. I have a lot of wiggle room because I eat my rabbits. This is an example of a project that I worked on because of my casters. So here is a normal caster. Here is a chocolate caster. Sometimes these are called ambers. Here is a diluted lilac agouti, otherwise known as lynx. The thing with building your barn is you're gonna have to patch it up sometimes. You're gonna test to see if some screws work or if you like a certain kind of nail better. And sometimes you're just gonna have to start all over. Nothing is ever perfect. Trust me, I play with all kinds of nonsense. But if I screw up somewhere on a color or on a line, I just go back to basics. Everyone meet basics. This is Strawberry. I breed him to a doe and eventually their babies are gonna look nice. So the answer to this question is no. And in case everyone was wondering, there is a very special poop that rabbits poop and like to eat. It's very sticky. Cecotropes. It's the same idea of a cow chewing its cud. It helps with digestion, that kind of thing, right? There are a couple of reasons I don't worry about this kind of poo. For one, it's large enough to where it will stick on this little bit and they'll eat it from there. Or the rabbit will eat it straight from the source. It's disgusting. So there's no need to necessarily worry about that.